You know, some of us were mature when your father came to power. And there are many Liberians, and there are many areas where Liberians can point their fingers of appreciation for the work that your father did for Liberia. But there are also areas where fingers were pointed at that they expressed their dissatisfaction and concern. For example, your father inherited a story where it was said by many politicians or political activists from the indigenous group that yes, today you can find native Liberians in the cabinet, in the legislature, in the foreign service, but there are 5 important positions in government which were never allowed to be occupied by the indigenous Liberians. That's the presidency, the vice presidency, the speakers of the House of Representatives, the president of pro tempore, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. That was the complaint that your father inherited, was not the doing of your father. But in the case of his administration, 2 of the 5 positions were occupied by the Tolbert family from one mother, one father. And the 3rd of the 5 positions were occupied by someone who only yesterday I got to know that he was indigenous Liberian, but were a closest neighbor to Bensonville, that is Bishop Warner. Your father was president of Liberia. Your uncle, Frank Tolbert, was the president of pro tempore. So, your father inherited non-equitable distribution of political power. But with that representation and backed by the fact that 2 persons from one mother, one father, living in the same place were elected as far back as 1943 in the House of Representatives. People felt that that was too much for one family. What is your view about that?
Well, my view, my father, when he became president, Frank Tolbert was in his position. So he didn't elect Frank Tolbert. We hope that the people of Liberia, it was not in his administration, Frank Tolbert got his position.
No, the president of pro tempore position.
Yes, but Frank
got that.
No, he was president of pro tempore before my father became president. I mean, my father didn't appoint him. People talked about my father appointing Stephen Tolbert as Minister of Finance. But Stephen Tolbert was qualified to be Minister of Finance. I mean, look at the great United States. When Canada was in power, his brother was also in the government. I think, if that's one of the reasons they had a coup, is sad, because my father, in all intent, he never wanted to be president longer than his term. He had told me and everybody he was leaving, he was going to go back to his farm. He had intended to help Liberia. I mean, as I say that, he had been vice president for 19 years, so he saw some of the problems. You cannot do things he was not even there not even 10 years. So how can you make changes that quickly in 10 years? So, but I think if somebody is qualified, you know, Stephen Tolbert was ample qualified. Frank Tolbert, I was in school a lot, as I said. I was in Switzerland, then in Canada, and so I wasn't there when all these appointments were made. But I don't think he could just fire Frank Tolbert because I was his brother. People put Frank Tolbert there before he became president. But people talk about nepotism, but I don't think my father was that type. He was looking for qualified people. He looked all around and he represented the diversity as far as he could, as fast as he could, I think, and he did well until some of the people in his inner circle was upset with him. But he was on the right path, and if only they had allowed that, not because of his life, because I said, I forgot to say, he even had his own plot. He had his own grave, his own casket. He didn't care, but he was fighting for the Liberian people, and he wanted representation.